This is the Dzogchen Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Come, let us read from the spaciousness of Vajrasattva and then meditate like a Jedi. In the first of 55 verses we read, "Listen, O virtuous one, I will show you the truth of your being." You are, and always have been, like Vajrasattva, the infinite consciousness, living presence, and creative power of the divine. The vast spaciousness of being, always good, the way of liberation for all beings, beyond appearance and disappearance, and beyond the grasp of the intellect. As they say on South Park, what? So, this is a radical text. This changed my spiritual journey. Most spiritual paths are very patriarchal, and they begin with something that is tantamount to, "Should I use in a heap of trouble?" And this doesn't say that. This says, "Listen, O virtuous one." This reminds me of a scene from Young Frankenstein, where Dr. Frankenstein has himself locked in a prison cell with the creature who has just run amok. And when he realizes that his lava system is not going to free him, he turns to the creature and says, "Hello, handsome," which befuddles the creature. And so this is not saying you are deficient, you are sucky, you smell bad, your mother dresses you funny. No, it's saying you are already virtuous. That's amazing. You are already good. You are already wise. You are already loving. See, allow me to show you something real quick. I'm going to reach for a diagram. Excuse me whilst I whip this out. That was a Blazing Saddles reference. So, yes, most of us are conditioned by the competitiveness of capitalism to be controlling and rigid and actively focus and actively analyze, even though doing so exhausts our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex to the point that we begin presenting with symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. But the good news is neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, our spinal cord, whose fancy name is the nexus of our autonomic nervous system. When we take a break from being controlling and instead passively cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, the anger, the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated. Doesn't that sound nice? Just as most of us have both a right and a left hand that would fit under the umbrella of hands. Similarly, we have two sub-components of our autonomic nervous system. We'll begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, known as the sympathetic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination, regardless of whether that which we notice is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. The most efficient way for us to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system is for us to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our lungs, every time we feel our chest swell with breath. But what are we to do with all that which we have noticed? Oh no. Grammar. What an illusion. That brings us to meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to automatically access the very attic as well as the basement of that same spinal cord. These two extremes, together as a team, are known as our parasympathetic nervous system. They are also a component of our autonomic nervous system. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to relax to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand. And so we see that emptiness is just a metaphor, and as well as selflessness or no self are just metaphors for the fleeting experience latent within each exhalation. The most efficient way for us to cooperate with this facet, this aspect of our autonomic nervous system, is to silently and mentally recite the verb rest each time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. It's just that simple. Let's go back to our opening text. Let's see, I'm going to tap button 7 and I'm going over to this document here. So here's the truth of your being. We already have an autonomic nervous system. All we need to do is stop fighting it. You are and always have been like Vajrasattva. And there's an image of Vajrasattva here. Vajrasattva is an archetype. The superstitious would look at Vajrasattva as a god or a goddess, a celestial entity to be worshipped. But the idea here is just to treat him as an archetype. Vajra meaning diamond, Sattva meaning mind. So allow me to treat it as if this was an umbrella and open it for you. You have always been like he who has mastered the strength, the diamond-like strength of a mind well trained in mindfulness and meditation. The infinite consciousness. What does that mean? That is the opposite of concentration. Concentration says, man, I gotta focus on one thing or no thing, and everything else can fuck all the way up to the top of fuck off mountain. But no, mindfulness says, I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna be vulnerable to every sight, sound, sensation, flavor, scent, every emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagining that shoots through my sphere of awareness. I can be completely open, hence infinite consciousness. Living presence and creative power of the divine. So divine here is a metaphor, clearly, and the Hindus have a different definition of divine, or a different metaphor for the divine. In Buddhism, we say divine, think of it this way. The divinity, well, think of it this way. Divine circumstances, the divine aspect of the divine experience of our circumstances is that they are appearing, yet non-graspable. The divine experience of our bodies is that they are pleasurable or sensual, yet non-graspable. The divine experience of our relationships is that they are resounding, yet non-graspable. The divine experience of our mind is that it is lucid, yet non-graspable. These are not things we have to believe superstitiously. These are not things we have to theorize on pseudo-intellectually. These are things we cannot help but notice as we watch and rest in harmony with our inhalations and our exhalations. Now, this is a really crummy little image here. It's too really small to see, so I'm going to quickly reach for a larger image. Please bear with me while I do that. Device, pictures, Buddhist yoga. Let's go to Dorje Samba. Where's the D? There we go. Let's go to solitary. There we go. Let's hit this bad boy right here. Let's hit the magic button that says wrap text behind text. Okay, and let's drag this bad boy kicking and screaming over here. So I want to see if this, wow, that's exciting. Okay, look, I'm half-faced, like some sort of a Dick Tracy character. Let's go to webcam and hit the up button. There we go. Let's go like this. Let's see if that works better. A little bit lower down, a little bit down here, a little bit more. Okay, so this scepter or vajra represents mindfulness. This bell or ganta represents relaxation, release. These are not something we have to reach for. They are already hardwired into our autonomic nervous system. The only reason we practice mindfulness and meditation is to reacquaint ourselves with the birthright. That is simply our latent ability to watch and release. The vast spaciousness of being always good, the way of liberation for all beings. What? So the vast spaciousness of being refers to the fact that we are wired to notice whatever comes our way, and that noticing is not harmful, even if what we notice is internal, even if what we notice is our own internal Darth Vader. The act of noticing does not harm us. The act of relaxing into that which we notice ensures that our inner Darth Vader will never seize the puppet strings of our choices and utterances and deeds. Au contraire, by noticing and relaxing, it is as if we are slicing through those puppet strings. so that our inner crankiness no longer is capable of controlling those choices or utterances and deeds. And instead, those self-same choices and utterances or deeds are led by uh, love's deeply centered spontaneity. No, not its calculated contrivance, not its wild scatteredness, but its deeply centered spontaneity. The way of liberation for all beings, noticing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then relaxing into the good, the bad, and the ugly, is the path of liberation. Check this out. I'm going to assail you with another, what's it called? Visual aid. So I'm going to tap button 9. And tap this button here. So check this out. Archaeologists and anthropologists agree that about 300,000 years ago, we saw the advent of the our Paleolithic ancestors. Their experience of proto-communism trained them to effortlessly be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Pretty awesome. However, about 10,000 years ago, there was a shift. We call it the Neolithic Revolution that endured the birth of proto-capitalism, and ever since, for the last 10,000 years, it has been conditioning us to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. So when we look at the history of Buddhism and any other spiritual movement, we see it's the proto-Buddhism and we see institutional Buddhism. Institutional Buddhism is kind of like good old Mace Windu. Cranky Mace Windu. Um, I'm sorry, grumpy Mace Windu. And these are the type of people who say, man, if a worm like you wants to become a Buddha, it's going to take multiple lifetimes. It's going to take a span greater than the birth and death of the universe. So strap in, we're in for a rough ride. But that's not what groovy Qui-Gon Jinn would say, the personification of proto-Buddhism. He would say, well, the Buddha says in the second to final passage of his discourse of the four bases of mindfulness that we could master his path in as little as 7 days. That is huge. That does not require heroic effort. That does not require getting a bad haircut and wearing weird clothes and jumping through hoops. Simply by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, we can master the Buddha's path, Buddha's Eightfold Path. Check this out. Enlightenment is nothing other than, being enlightened doesn't mean you stop feeling certain emotions or you start walking through walls or become Gandalf the Grey. It simply means we've gotten so good at the Buddha's Eightfold Path that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. As children, we were faced with the gauntlet of learning to master the toilet instead of pooping in our Pampers, brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, riding a bike, and these things seemed insurmountable. However, in time and with effort and some tears, each of us got so good at those things that we were able to practice them spontaneously, habitually, easily and effectively. We are mastery machines. Remember the first time you tried to type? Remember the first time you tried to use a smartphone? Now you can do both those things effortlessly. We are mastery machines. Similarly, we can master the Buddha's path. Check this out. Simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so. Simply by watching and resting every 12 hours or so. The remaining 6 folds of the path take care of themselves. The more we watch and rest in harmony with our breathing, the more we can't help but notice change and fleeting non-graspability. The more we watch and rest in harmony with our breathing, the more we can't help but kindly intend, kindly communicate, kindly conduct ourselves, and even kindly practice commerce. The more we watch and rest in harmony with our inhalations and exhalations, the more we cannot help but allow our choices and utterances and deeds to flow from the effortless effort of expedient means. How cool is that? Let's see, here we go. So simply by noticing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then relaxing, this is the way of liberation for all beings. No, we don't have to knock on someone's doorstep on a Saturday morning and argue with them about things metaphysical. All we got to do is traverse the path, and we cannot help but affect those around us directly or indirectly, overtly or subtly, immediately or eventually, actually or potentially. It's kind of like when you pull out your dinner out of the microwave, you don't have to call your dog. They're right there. It's kind of like when you open up a can of wet food, you don't have to call your kitty cat. They are right there in your face singing the song of their people. Beyond appearance and disappearance and beyond the grasp of the intellect. So as we relax into our exhalation, whatever appeared during our previous inhalation could feel like it's subtly, partially disappearing. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of the duality of appearance or disappearance can melt into the simplicity of just mental energy. We don't have to figure it out. We don't got to believe nothing. All we got to do is watch and rest and enjoy the ride. In fact, I should probably refer to this as enjoying the ride. Let's go over here let's jot this down real quick. Fabulous. Pay no attention to the decapitated Buddha at the top of your screen. That's just me being a bad editor. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. And now, together, let us meditate like a Jedi. If you've just tuned in, allow me to remind you the essence of mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our chest swell with air. The essence of mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. If you're watching on the Tube app, which is the ideal place to watch, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice the essence of mindfulness meditation spelled out for you. And now, let's practice. Because of algorithms, I have to use phrases like the clock app or the Tube app, but if you're seeing the visual aids and my funny face, you're on the Tube app. If you only see my funny face, you're on the clock app. The free fall of meditation could feel very jarring to our controlling tendencies. An easy and effective workaround is for us to play with a variation of Bengali crease counting. We could touch the tip of our left thumb to the lowest set of creases on our left little finger, thus keeping track of our first set of 16 inhalations. Let's now rest this hand palms up in our lap. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch as we feel our chest swell with breath, we could advance our right thumb up the creases and tips of its fingers, beginning with beginning with the right little finger. Let us do this together. Let us practice this together right now. So I've run out of places upon which to rest my right thumb. Therefore it's time to advance my left thumb up to the second set of creases on its left little finger. And now you get the basic idea of how we use the left hand to count sets and the right hand to count inhalations. We could count 16 inhalations a little bit more than a minute. We could count 16 sets in a little bit more than 20 minutes. We could, as we gather our first collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. When we begin gathering our second collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the third knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. And you guessed it, as we begin gathering our third collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the third knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Overwhelmed? The antidote is repetition. Come, practice with me once every 12 hours or so, and within a week or two, you too could master the Buddha's path. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques of Taoism, Buddhism, Tantra, Dzogchen, Zen, or Mahamudra, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I do check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. In about 3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's second session of teachings, followed by meditating like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.